You followed the rules, you did the no contact thing, you stepped away, ignored their messages, resisted the urge to check their social media, and played the game of silence. But here's the problem: you're still waiting, waiting for them to realize what they lost, waiting for the regret to kick in, waiting for that text that never seems to come. But what if I told you that no contact alone isn't the magic solution? What if I told you that being absent isn't always enough? Some people don't chase what disappears, they only crave what makes them feel something. And if you've been nothing but silent, they might not be feeling anything at all. See, most people think detachment means cutting off communication and hoping the silence makes them miss you. But silence without emotional contrast is just silence. And if someone isn't already attached to you in a deep way, they won't feel your absence. They'll just get used to it. So here's where we shift the game. Instead of fading into the background, you become unpredictable. Instead of being gone, you become an intriguing presence, one that subtly disrupts their comfort, challenges their assumptions, and forces them to reconsider everything they thought they knew about you. People only truly feel loss when there's an emotional contrast. If they've grown used to your silence, they won't be shaken by it. But if you shift your energy, become someone who is suddenly thriving, engaging, and subtly unbothered, it triggers something powerful in their psychology. Think about this. When you disappear entirely, they assume you're waiting. But when they see you laughing in a new social setting, glowing with confidence, or engaging with people they don't recognize, it forces a new narrative in their mind, one where they are no longer part of your world. And that's the moment they start to wonder. Humans are drawn to mystery. If someone can predict your next move, they stop paying attention. But if your energy becomes unreadable, if you suddenly show up in unexpected ways, maybe through a casual yet powerful interaction, or even just a subtle shift in your online presence, you disrupt their sense of security. They thought they had you figured out. Now they don't. And that uncertainty is what creates emotional engagement, because nothing is more unsettling than realizing someone you thought you had power over is suddenly out of reach. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People value what they can't fully have. The moment they sense you've stopped waiting, stopped hoping, stopped caring, that's when the real power shift happens. Not when you say you've moved on, but when you embody it. When they see that you've built a life they are no longer essential to. When your energy screams, I'm better, I'm growing, and I'm not looking back. That's when they start questioning themselves. That's when they begin to wonder if they made a mistake. The irony of all of this: the moment you genuinely stop waiting for them to come back is usually the moment they do. But by then, something remarkable has happened. You've outgrown the need for their validation. You've created a version of yourself that they have to work for rather than the other way around. And that's the real power. So if no contact didn't work, don't just disappear. Elevate. Don't just avoid them. Transform. Become the person they never expected you to be. Because when you do, you won't have to chase them. No contact is often praised as the ultimate solution to getting someone's attention after a breakup or a falling out. The logic seems simple. If you disappear from their life, they'll realize what they lost, feel the weight of your absence, and come running back. But in reality, it's not always that straightforward. Disappearing alone doesn't guarantee a reaction, because absence in itself isn't always enough to create emotional urgency. People don't always chase what's missing. Instead, they respond to what triggers them emotionally. If your absence doesn't create a meaningful emotional shift in their mind, they won't feel compelled to act on it. Some people process silence as relief rather than loss. Others assume it means you've accepted the separation and moved on, which removes any pressure for them to reconsider their actions. And some simply don't register the absence at all because their attention is focused elsewhere. Think about it. If someone isn't deeply invested in you at the time of your departure, your disappearance won't shake their world. It will just blend into the background of their daily life. It's only when absence is paired with emotional contrast that it creates an impact. If, before you walked away, you were pouring energy into them, making yourself available, or even subtly seeking their validation, then suddenly vanishing might cause a shift in their perception. But if they had already detached, then your silence becomes just another quiet moment in their life. Another key factor is how people experience loss. Loss isn't just about missing someone. It's about feeling the weight of their absence in a way that disrupts one's emotional balance. If no contact isn't making them feel something significant, then it's not achieving its intended purpose. Some people don't feel loss immediately. They feel it when they start encountering situations where they used to have you and now they don't. But if their life continues without much disruption, if nothing reminds them of your presence, then the absence doesn't register as deeply as you might hope. Moreover, no contact works best when there was already a foundation of attachment. If someone had strong emotions toward you, whether positive or even conflicted, then your absence may trigger reflection, curiosity, or even regret. But if they were already emotionally disengaged, then stepping away doesn't necessarily create a desire to reconnect. It might just reinforce their existing detachment. This is where emotional triggers come into play. Humans are emotional creatures, and we react to changes in patterns, unpredictability, and contrast. If you are always available and suddenly disappear, that creates a shift they might notice. But if they already expected you to fade away, then your absence won't spark any significant emotional reaction. That's why just cutting contact isn't enough. It has to be combined with a psychological shift that disrupts their perception of you and forces them to see you in a different light. For some, no contact becomes a passive waiting game. They assume that by stepping back, the other person will eventually feel the void and come back. But time alone doesn't create desire. It's not the absence itself that makes someone want you back. It's the contrast between what they had and what they think they lost. If someone believes they can return to you at any time, then your absence isn't a loss, it's just a pause. It's just a pause. But if they start to sense that they no longer have access to you in the way they once did, if they see you evolving, thriving, and shifting into a different energy, that's when they begin to feel the loss in a real way. When someone has taken your absence for granted, it means they've placed you in a predictable category in their mind, one that doesn't challenge them, doesn't surprise them, and most importantly, doesn't evoke a strong emotional response. They assume they know what you're doing, how you're feeling, and what role you still play in their life, even if that role is simply someone they believe they can return to whenever they please. This is where emotional contrast becomes the most powerful tool at your disposal. See, human psychology is wired to respond to change. When something remains the same for too long, the brain registers it as background noise. It doesn't demand attention and it doesn't create urgency. But the moment something shifts, when an expected pattern suddenly breaks, the brain has no choice but to sit up and take notice. This is why mere absence isn't always enough. If they've already categorized you as a goner or eating in the wings, your silence is predictable, and predictable things don't evoke an emotional response. To truly shift the dynamic, you have to become unpredictable, mysterious, and subtly influential. This doesn't mean playing games or manipulating emotions. It means stepping out of the version of yourself they think they know and embodying something they can no longer easily define. Unpredictability is key because it forces them to reconsider everything they assumed about you. When they can no longer predict how you will respond, where you will be, or what you will do next, they are forced to pay attention. Maybe they expected you to be mourning them, posting sad quotes, or staying off the radar, but instead they see you glowing, engaging with new people, and exuding an energy that doesn't seek their validation. Suddenly, the script in their mind shifts. They wonder, wait, was I wrong about them? Are they actually moving on? This thought alone creates emotional tension, and tension is what brings people back into focus. Mystery is equally powerful. When someone believes they have complete access to your emotions, they feel no need to question or chase. But when they start seeing glimpses of you that don't fully add up, new confidence, unexpected activities, subtle but intriguing changes in how you carry yourself, it creates an irresistible need to figure you out again. The key is not to broadcast everything, but to let just enough slip through that they are left with questions. Humans chase answers, especially when those answers relate to something or someone they thought they had figured out. Then comes subtle influence. Influence isn't about direct action. It's about planting seeds in their subconscious. This could be as simple as making a small but noticeable change in your appearance, engaging in something they never expected you to, or even carrying yourself with a level of self-assurance that suggests you've tapped into something bigger than them. Influence happens when they start noticing these changes without you ever directly telling them. Think about how powerful contrast is in storytelling. A plot twist works because it breaks the expected pattern. A movie is compelling because it takes the viewer on a journey of highs and lows, not because it stays at the same emotional level throughout. People react to relationships the same way. If they thought they had you figured out and suddenly the energy around you shifts, they can't help but notice. This is how you make someone feel the weight of your absence, not by just disappearing, but by creating a contrast between the version of you they remember and the version of you that now exists. Because once they start seeing you differently, they start feeling differently. And once they start feeling differently, the dynamic between you is no longer in their control. When people go no contact, the assumption is that silence alone will create longing. But in reality, complete avoidance often leads to being forgotten rather than missed. The mind doesn't dwell on things that feel permanently out of reach. It fixates on things that create curiosity, uncertainty, and emotional tension. If your absence has become predictable, then it's time to shift from avoidance to intrigue. A subtle but powerful shift that keeps you in their subconscious without chasing their attention. Intrigue isn't about manipulation, it's about disrupting expectations. When they assume you'll stay away, they stop checking. When they believe you've moved on in a predictable way, they stop wondering. But when something shifts, something small yet unexpected, they feel an emotional nudge, even if they don't fully understand why. A well-placed social media move is one of the simplest and most effective ways to create this effect. It's not about posting something desperate or overly polished. It's about subtlety. A picture that hints at a new experience, an unexpected interaction with someone intriguing, a post that carries confidence and depth without trying too hard. The goal isn't to signal a look at me, I'm doing great. That's too obvious. The goal is to make them pause and wonder. Wait, but what's this about? Why? Who are they with? What's changed social media is powerful because it allows you to create an emotional ripple effect without direct contact. Maybe you always posted a certain way when they were around. Suddenly, you're different. Maybe you used to engage in specific conversations and now you've shifted. Maybe you appear in a setting they didn't expect. The key is contrast subtle but noticeable changes that make them question the version of you they had in their mind. Beyond social media, an energy shift is one of the most powerful ways to create intrigue. Energy is something people pick up on even from a distance. If you were once anxious, seeking their validation, or overly available, and now you carry yourself differently, more grounded, more focused, more unbothered, it changes how they perceive you. They may not consciously register it, but they feel it. This shift in energy can happen through your presence in shared spaces, mutual connections, or even just the way you respond or don't respond if they reach out. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be cold, but you can be detached in a way that makes them wonder. Wonder. If they expected you to be bitter and instead you're indifferent, that's intriguing. If they assumed you'd try to reconnect and instead you're thriving in your own world, that creates tension. And then, of course, there's the power of a surprising interaction. Maybe you run into them unexpectedly. Maybe they hear something about you from a mutual friend. Maybe they see a shift in how others respond to you. The goal isn't to manufacture these moments, but to become someone worth noticing, someone who carries an energy that makes others take interest. Because when other people start seeing you in a new light, it's only a matter of time before they do too. What makes this shift from avoidance to intrigue so powerful is that it keeps them emotionally engaged without direct effort on your part. It's not about chasing them, forcing a reaction, or proving anything. It's about planting questions in their mind. People aren't drawn to what's predictable. They're drawn